Well, I am out for a drive. I woke up, I don't know, I'm kind of crashing out today a little bit. Yesterday was a little bit of a struggle, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna work all day, and I didn't fix it. So woke up today. I'm assuming, my guess is manic, but like the bad manic to where it's like anxious and it's like self-doubting and like vanity of vanity, like what's the point of anything, which makes sense because it's probably my self-sabotage kicking in, because yesterday I think I stumbled upon the fact that I definitely need to be focusing on like the mental health content. That was a few of my videos yesterday. I only did 6 videos yesterday. I don't know, it's decent, I guess. And I got a ton of like response and whatnot from them, and so it makes me wonder if I need to pivot a little bit off of some of the fitness stuff. And obviously I feel like this is going to turn into one of those, like, it took me 3 years to realize from the very beginning that what I knew from the very beginning that I needed to do. But like, I don't feel qualified to talk about it. And then the things that make me the most qualified to talk about are the hardest to talk about, like today. Like, well, I'm gonna go on there and just start talking about how, like, oh, I'm like, you know, dang it, I can't get this straight. Not that it matters as much as we're bouncing around, but it would be nice to be level-ish. You know, whatever. So anyway, I just create the, you know, and be like, oh yeah, today's try, like that, I guess, I mean, that probably is what I need to do. And just document. But like, so it's hard to walk away from that like expert level, the status, right? Because that's what I've tried so long and has never really worked for me. And I don't like even the pushback of like the comments and stuff when I do that. So I don't know why I'm still holding to it. But then at the same time, I think maybe because of, you know, the background of like pastor and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's hard to walk away from that. And there's always, you're always going to find it must be nice, right? So if I was struggling, it'd be like, oh yeah, if I was pastoring and I had all this time, it would be, you know, it'd be nice. And then I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, the golden handcuffs of like, you know, because what if I go out there and I just put myself out there and I just document my journey with like the mental health and spirituality and all that kind of, I'll come back to the spirituality stuff. You know, and then what about, you know, my parishioners and the other people, or you know, that's good. Like, because typically as a pastor, you talk about things in the past. Like, if you're going to be open and transistent, is that a word? Transparent, you talk about things in the past. You don't talk about like, today I'm going to document that I woke up on the bad side of manic, and not only do I not want to do anything, I'm questioning everything. Oh yeah, and it's probably part of the self-sabotaging, which the self-sabotage, I wonder if that's connected to the paranoia of bipolar. Like, not only that, I had some pretty good results yesterday when I kind of stuck a toe into the lake of what I probably need to be doing, and got a lot more comments and engagement, and a lot of like I think I went from like 93 to 115 subscribers on YouTube in one day, just from posting 6 videos. And I focused just on the one channel yesterday, the Becoming Aquaman, which eventually I need to change to Iron Chapel, but I don't think I'm ready for that yet. A lot of comments, Facebook, TikTok I'm kind of excluding from because I have a promotion going on there right now. So how much of the engagement is because of the promotion, how much of it is because of my content in general. So I'm kind of excluding that one, but there was still good stuff on that. Facebook, I had a good amount of comments. YouTube, I had, like I said, I went from like low 90s to 115 in one day. off of 6 videos, a good amount of comments, and they weren't just like dumb comments. They were like, you know, I didn't get any, you know, who I look like comments, or, you know, like they were all like, this was helpful to me, I'm going to try this, or this was encouraging, I needed to hear this today. They were those kind of comments. So that's definitely an indication I need to step in that direction. But then I wake up today feeling like, I don't know, second guessing everything. And like I said, as a pastor, we're typically trained, and this is more unofficial than actual official, but you know what it's like. You don't have to have a manual at a job to understand the rules of the trade, as it were. Like, you don't talk about what you're struggling with today or yesterday or this week or even this month. You talk about what you were struggling with in the past. So I'm struggling with that a little bit. Because like, if I get up there and I document, it's one thing for me to do those videos I did yesterday where I said, oh yeah, this is what I'm trying with my bipolar. This is, you know, the buckets I'm trying to, you know, put the different in. And then it's another thing to like come in as the expert and be like, hey, you know, if you're having a bad day, but if I really walk away from so it's like Gary V's like document, don't create type thing. So if I basically less creating and more documenting, like document my process of walking through, you know, bipolar, the ADHD, you know, even like the fitness stuff. So instead of being like, oh, I'm a personal trainer, let me teach you how to train, I walk through my own experience, I walk through my stuff, I walk through like, you know, whatever. It's just that level of vulnerability is difficult, especially when you've spent your entire life essentially being taught and curating the ability not to manipulate your image, but to put your best foot forward, as it were, to put an encouraging foot forward, as it were. So one of those, like I said, you talk about the past, so it's like, hey, follow me as I've, you know, I figured this out already in the past. I did struggle with it, therefore I can relate to you. And as I say this, like, I'm realizing how inauthentic it sounds, and it's not nearly as like manipulative as I realize it's sounding right now. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe I don't know that because I'm in it, right? Okay, now then transitioning, that's the other thing too, is I'm really struggling to like, how do I reconcile and I've had this issue from the very beginning when I started this channel, back when it was just recording my workouts and posting them. How do I reconcile the fact of like my faith side without turning this into like a faith channel? And what I'm doing right now is all my faith content goes to a different channel. I have a channel called 1159. I actually have 3 YouTube channels where I kind of break out like the 3 aspects of like my personality. I have Geek Church, which is all of my, well, I have headphones and I'm not listening to anything right now. All my like nerdy like stuff, you know, me and my one son playing Legos, talking about comic books, me and my other son, you know, going like driving home from Round Mountain, talking about that. I have my 1159 channel that is where I talk more about the church stuff and the pastoring the 2 churches, and put my sermon clips. Oh jeez, this is the rocky part. And then I've been thinking more and more, especially if I rebrand to me being like the Iron Chaplain. I feel like I need like 20 to 30 pounds, like 20 pounds of gaining muscle before I can call myself that. But and then changing the brand to Iron Chapel, which I do have the LLC. Like, how do I incorporate the faith side without it being, so I don't know. And then there's like a lot there. And so it's really, I've talked about this in past podcasts about the whole, like trying to like scrape away, peel away, whatever, the different layers that I have put on in the years, and going back to more of my genuine self. And I feel like I've done a really good job of that in the last few months. But then now it's like this whole different paradigm in terms of like the content, the online, whatever. And like I said, I'll just put it out there. Like when I was younger, well, Joseph's a good example of my story, I think, where, you know, I felt like God had showed me some stuff when I was pretty young, and I was like willing and eager to step right into it right away. And, you know, it's been years of not, and just wanting to be in the public eye, wanting to have that influence. You know, like I wanted to go and plant a church at a young age and be like a church planting superstar, and wanting to, you know, be the influencer and, you know, be up there with the guys of, you know, who are the who's who of social media and the marketing and all that kind of stuff. I've walked through several of those things, done those things. I've done the YouTube thing. I did the vlogging thing. You know, I vlogged for years without it ever, you know, taking off. So, and then I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm cool with just being, you know, I got in my later 30s and I was like, yeah, I'm cool with just kind of like going off and doing my thing. Just kind of disappearing. You know, we found a little church kind of in the middle of nowhere, on the busiest road in the middle of nowhere, but, you know, in the middle of nowhere in Ely, Nevada. Little town of like 4,500 people, 4 hours north of Vegas, 4 hours southwest, I guess, of Salt Lake. Kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, oh, I just want to go and pastor the church and just, you know, live a little modest, quiet life. And God has been speaking to me in terms of like having a voice, having, you know, a voice to the generation. And it's like, oh man, now this stuff I feel like is coming back now that I don't want it. And now that, especially with the current landscape of everything, like when everything is kind of crap right now, to be honest, in the world. And, you know, we've got the president posting pictures of himself as Jesus, and we've got, you know, every other day is a rumor, hey, we're going to war, hey, we're not going to war, hey, we are at war, hey, we won the war, hey, we're starting the war, hey, it's like, okay, geez, like, I may have bipolar, but the news has been schizophrenic. It's been crazy. I realized what I just did there, and I basically just, I was like, well, I'm bipolar, and that's okay, but, you know, schizophrenia, they're actually crazy. That's not what I meant to say, even though that's technically what I just said by inference. I apologize, I did not mean to say that. Normally people talk about it as like, oh yeah, the news is like, actually bipolar probably is better because it is back and forth between a couple of poles there. So, okay, fine, I'll put it back on myself. The news has been bipolar the last few weeks. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do is, because I feel like, I don't know, I run the risk there. Like, so I don't want to get into, I don't know. It's a lot, and it feels like a bit of a burden that I'm worried to screw up. I feel like I have a particular message to a particular people, and I feel like if I don't do it correctly, I can definitely mess it up. And, you know, this isn't like with the Apostle Paul where, you know, he could get stoned in one town and cast out of the city and then get up and walk to the next, where, you know, it's online, so you mess up once and it's semi-permanent. Obviously, you know, that's not a concern if, you know, you feel like you have a certain message. Because it's the type of people I feel called to reach. Like, I don't want to mess up my witness to that group, as it were. There's the mine. Yeah, so it's a lot to take in. And so, like, after yesterday, I'm like, you know, I really feel, so I'm re-listening some Gary Vee books, and I just re-listened to Crush It, and he talked about the mom, I think he said mom, but the lady who was producing, I think that's why I think she was a mom, because it was, she's like doing like mom snacks basically, like, and I think this is a fake example, but, you know, she's basically creating like mom snacks. And for other moms who to, make snacks for their kids and whatnot. And then she realizes through analytics that a good percentage of her viewers are actually like dudes who are watching her recipe content for like tailgate food, or as like making her snacks and her food and stuff as she's or as they're like watching football games and going to football games and stuff like that. So and he talked about how she'd be better off to knowing that to pivot and create some of her content about like the best tailgate foods and snacks or whatever, or just be like, nope, I don't care about that, I only care about. So I feel like I'm in that kind of situation where I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this Becoming Aquaman. It started off as like, let me just document my journey in the gym. I don't really plan on anyone else really watching this, but it's more of like a public journal, and why not have it public, right? And because that just motivates me, is if it's public. I feel like there's an accountability to keep posting videos. And then I ran like less than 10 subscribers for a long time, and I was just posting my little videos. And then I started doing some shorts and some whatever. So then I was like, well, maybe if I'm gonna go with this, I probably should like actually get certified. So they got certified personal trainer. And it's like, oh, okay, so now like I'm kind of like an expert in this. Like I can start coming at this from a creating perspective, from a expert perspective. I feel like yesterday was more of like, well, maybe not, maybe, and that could be, and that definitely would be a way to stand out, is like, not just being like, oh, I'm just another personal trainer, let me teach you and respond to videos out there and do breakdowns of what people eat in a day and critique other people's workouts and respond to all these and do all the green screen videos and do all the stuff that people do. Ultimately, like, it might be a better, more in line with what I'm supposed to do, is that whole just documenting my journey. Like, imagine if I was documenting my journey from the beginning, back when I was like 360 pounds. Like, when I got in, I recorded a certain video for an announcement. I recorded an announcement video for youth, and it was like a sketch comedy video that I was recording. So I dressed up as a character. I did this video because we were having like a youth Nerf night. And I went to edit the video and I saw myself and I was like, wow, okay. So imagine if right then I pulled out my phone and I was like, guys, look at this. This has gotten too far. I can't. And I started documenting. And I thought about it, but again, I just felt so much like too embarrassed, really, and ashamed of where I was. And at the time, I even had the thought, because to my knowledge, it wasn't popular yet, all these like fat to fit journeys, right? You have all these people now who are like, I'm 300 and whatever pounds, I'm 400 pounds, and it's like their fitness loss journey, and they're building huge followings because it's inspiring to a lot of people. To my knowledge, that was not around yet. That popped up later. And I had the thought, I remember standing in the shower. Everyone's got their best ideas in the shower, right? I remember standing in the shower thinking I could start a workout channel geared to people like me, where I could do like daily workouts, and it's literally like, hey, you can do these workouts because I'm doing them and I'm bigger than you are, or I'm as big as you are, or I'm almost as big as you are. So if I can do them, you can do them too. Let's do a daily workout. And it's like, how cool would it be to document that journey? And then when I got to being fit, it's like that whole thing was probably, and then it would be motivating for people to be like, cool, he did it, I can do it too. And I chickened out because honestly, the idea of posting, shirtless, that much overweight, to kind of show that, like, a lot of them will, show progress. So they'll do weekly check-ins, like shirtless check-ins, or just even acknowledging the fact that I was that overweight. It was like, there was such a cognitive dissonance with it. Like, I would have to kind of pretend, and like, as if like everyone else couldn't just see it. And so that was a struggle. And then even now I still struggle, because now I've lost, like, certified personal trainer, I've lost over 100 pounds. I went from 360, I'm down to, well, as I weighed in this morning, I was 239. But even now I struggle, because it's like, well, you're not big enough with muscle. Like, yeah, you lost 100 pounds, but who cares? Like, now you have to. So I'm sure I'll always struggle with that to some extent. But again, if I'm documenting my journey or walking through this, okay, all that to say, I can just keep saying, I can keep quoting Gary Vee's thing over and over. But the point is, like, I'm like, maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should switch over to, that. And honestly, like, I don't know the best way to describe this. In the past, and I talked about this a little bit with modeling in my podcast. So I've been like modeling Jason Momoa and this idea of like, who I'm kind of calling like the whole person, the complete person, right? Like he's got it all. He's the tough, manly. He's the emotional, sensitive. He's the what do they call it? The American, like the dirtbag kind of style, but he's also the like pink velvet suit, right? He can kind of encompass it all. He's like a complete whole person in that sense, and that's part of his appeal. And so, like, I've been thinking about, that to try to get back from these artificial, framings I've put on myself, and getting back to this holistic person, right? And I've been thinking about it with ministry too, like this holistic ministry. So I've been evaluating a lot about like the church and where it is right now. Not so much like the political stuff, because but like just in terms of like on the practical side. So we've gone from 2 services down to 1, just because I've really just felt the Lord leading us that way. But like, because the idea of not maximizing for potential growth, but for potential growth. And what I mean by that is like, not potential growth as in like, okay, we have 2 services, let's fill them up, let's get a 3rd service, let's get it, as big as we can. But growth in terms of like, no, we're one, even if we're smaller, even if having 1 service caps us at a smaller number. I mean, we were running like 108, and right now we're running, I mean, there were some issues. I had a youth pastor had a moral failure, and then tried to split the church and left town and started rumors and stuff. So like, we lost some people. There was some stuff there. And so we went from like 105, 103 to 108 every week. We dropped down to like the mid to high 60s. I think we're kind of in that like 70-ish range. I mean, we'll definitely hit, 80s, even 90. But our average is probably, if I had to pick a number, I'd say like 73 or something. It's probably our average. And now that we're 1 service, I don't anticipate it getting back up to the 108, because for a couple reasons, but one specifically being just there's not room for that many people. Like, our kids' church is decently full. Our nursery is overly full. Like, we have to order some more chairs for their little snack table. The sanctuary is not packed, but on Easter it was more full than the experts say it should be. And so it's like, okay, well then the focus is not going to be so much on numerical growth. It's going to have to be on community and the growth of the people, which is more biblical anyways. When it comes to me as a minister, I've really been shifting away from the traditional minister sense and more to that chaplain sense, because I feel like that's the path God has had me on. And how can I reach out? How can I be there better for the community? And that's something that we've been experimenting with since we got here, about trying to be more involved in the community and so there's a lot there. I won't go into too many of that stuff, but I really see, as even as society is shifting, as the Christian church, or as the Christian quote unquote ideal is unraveling on a daily basis, when we've got our quote unquote Christian president, now posting pictures of himself as Jesus, cussing on, dropping F-bombs on Easter, all these things, right? So that's what people are looking to around the world as a Christian. And then the MAGA supporters, his followers, are being held up as examples of Christians, mostly because most of them claim to be Christians. And so it's like, okay, so the actual like whole model that we've been using to reach the world for how many years, it looks like it might be unraveling before our eyes. So we have that on one side. We've got the whole mega church superstar entertainment experience on the other side. We have a whole generation coming up that's just seeking genuine, authentic experience. And I feel like I'm in this metamorphosis of becoming, one, what I'm supposed to be, and two, what those people that generation, it's multiple generations, but they're the catalyst for it, Gen Z, right? Is really looking for. And it's hard because I'm having to let go of 2 decades worth of preparation and identity and expectation. And it's really hard when you spend 20 years being told, just, put in the work, pay your dues. One day it'll be your turn. And literally I've had, I think 2 different pastors who were like, yeah, we got crapped on when we were youth pastors, and now we're senior pastors, and so we put in the dues, so now we have you, and we get a crap on you, and one day you'll get a crap on someone else. And we're like, this whole situation feels a little crappy, right? And it was like, that doesn't seem like a great way to do that. And so we've always had these ideas of like, well, we're senior pastors, we'll do this better and better. And then... But then when you're actually there, obviously, and it's one thing to be like, if I was the king, I would open up the treasury for all the people. I would open up the kingdom and da-da-da, and right? And then you actually get into that position. So this is why you see so many politicians make all these promises, and then they get into the position, and then like the power kind of like sways them or whatever. So this idea of like, I've been preparing and been told like, 20 years of, and I'm just going to call it out for what it is. This is definitely not like a anti-church or like a deconstruction video, but 20 years of suffering basically in youth ministry, underpaid, we've had some good, there's been a lot of good too, but just in a general sense, like, it's like the idea of like, you're sacrificing now for one day, and then for it to be one day, and then just to say, no, let's flip the entire paradigm on its head. Let's keep sacrificing. Let's keep, doing the right thing, even though it would be easier to just do the stereotypical pastor thing and build a church around our lifestyle, because this is now and yeah, we get to then alleviate our conscience because we are also doing a lot of good, right? So it's like doing enough to get to heaven, but then also trying to cash out some of the reward here, essentially, in that sense, right? And I don't have a desire to do that, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, so how do we actually, and so it's hard to reinvent a car while driving in a car, if that makes sense. Because you can't just rip out the transmission and try something new while driving down the road, or at least it's very hard to. So this idea of like, oh, okay, I need to shift my content. And if I'm going to, speak more on the mental health, document my journey, talk about my stuff, even on a daily basis, rather than, hey, this is what you should do. And more of like, hey, here's what I'm struggling with today, and let me try to be an encouragement to you. Like, imagine if I got up and I was like, man, I'm really struggling today. I'm on the bad side of manic. I'm anxious. I'm questioning everything. I just want to crawl back into bed and play Minecraft all day, and then not even study, just listen to fiction books and do nothing today. But then to be able to, like, because of my purpose, because of my mission, because of my goals, to be able to get up and still do some stuff, and then be like, look, today was an awesome day. Look at the things I did. Or to be like, hey, I really struggled all day today. Let's just say, I'm going to use numbers here to, quantify this. I was planning on getting 20 units of work done today, and I got 7 done. But that's still a success, because of, like, the mania was trying to sabotage me hardcore, and I still got 7 units of success done. I'm going to call that a win. Like, that kind of crap could be, encouraging. I've always felt, and then on the ministry side, sorry guys, early morning, I'm talking a lot. On the ministry side, really taking more of that Pauline approach, where most churches operate from what I call the push method, right? You stand up on the platform and you push out the message. Hey, come listen to what I have to say. I've got the answers. It's the Bible's right here. Let me tell you. And there, we proclaim the gospel. That's definitely biblical. But then, I see it. I'm going to do a study of Paul, because I see Paul doing much more of a pull method. And guys, the sun's beating in, and I know I like to be dramatic and take my jacket off in the middle of my videos, but it is warming up. The sun's beating in on the car, so give me a second. I'm gonna take this jacket off. All right. Do you guys, is it just me, or do you guys, I won't, because it's very bad. I like to still have my seatbelt on, even while sitting. It's just, I guess because I'm used to the feel of the seatbelt. Okay, so what was I saying? I feel like Paul had much more of a pull method. I mean, he would definitely push, but I feel like when it came to like religious crowds, he pushed. He would say, here's the gospel, take it or leave it, but this is like the unfiltered truth. But then when it came to non-believers, I feel like he had much more of a pull method where he was like, hey, let's have a discussion. Let's talk. I will meet you where you are. And so this is like the classic example, but he does this a lot more than just this, but the classic example of the temple of the unknown God, right? So he goes into the temple of the unknown, or where there's the temple where there's statues of gods and stuff. And he's like, hey, I'm here to represent this one, the unknown God. Like, nowadays, that would be considered almost heretical to be like, to take that much liberty, but like with that much of a tactic. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to preach on. And so he went and he met them where they were with the pantheon of gods. And he walked it back to Yahweh, the one true, like Hebrew God, right? The one God. And walked them through. And they're like, oh, this is really interesting. Hey, can you come back tomorrow and talk some more? Compare that to the average Christian's response. Like, they're going to go out and they're going to try to talk to an unbeliever, and they're typically getting, cussed out and, told to get out of here. Let's see. I always forget to open this thing. Oh, see, but the lighting's probably bad. It's probably too sunny right now. See, I don't like how that's lighting up my forehead, though. Well, we tried. So yeah, Paul wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, as it were. I think I'm gonna head back down the mountain. I was gonna maybe spend some time up here, but I think I'm good with this. I think we'll finish off this video. I think I'm gonna head back down the mountain. It's gonna take me a while to get back down. But even doing this content, I feel like is therapeutic for me. And so if it's this therapeutic for me, how much is it helping others as well? Because I already feel better. I already feel like the anxiousness of the mania has dissipated, as it were. So it's got to be, let's try this again now that we're driving. So it's got to be helpful to some others too, and then I can kind of back that up by the comments of people saying it's helpful. So by the way, when I started this video, I fully intended this just to be a private video for me. So if I put it out, we'll see. It means I definitely took a step forward with what I'm talking about. And so yeah, I feel like the Apostle Paul has, he wasn't afraid to intellectually get his hands dirty and start from whatever presuppositions they had and work his way back, using literature, using reason, using philosophy, using these different things. And just to be honest, I think the two main reasons the average evangelist, minister, whatever, what doesn't do it anymore, is one, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, they're not intelligent enough too, right? They don't have the intelligence or the empathy. Let's put it, it's actually probably both of those. So they don't have the intelligence to be able to pull from current, like, Paul is, he's got the majority, if not all, but I think it's the majority of the non-biblical quotations in the Bible where he's quoting modern day poets and thinkers to be able to make his points, and he's able to go toe and toe with the modern day thinkers. The average Christian pastor, evangelist just can't do that. They went to seminary or whatever their Bible training is, and all they know is what they believe. And all they know is how to defend their belief. And so they almost have like scripts or patterns they follow. So if you say this, they're going to go into this, and then they don't really even listen. So that's the empathy part, right? Because the average, again, I'm really pigeonholing here. So if you're like, I don't fall in that category, then I'm not talking to you. And so don't get offended. Go read John Bevere's book, Beta Satan. I wasn't talking to you. Don't get offended. So with that said, there's a lack of, I think, empathy and intelligence. And not to say I have the intelligence. I definitely feel like I have the empathy, because I really want to use this sunroof, but I just don't feel like it's working. So sorry, it keeps opening and closing. So yeah, not that I necessarily have the intelligence. I do feel like I at least have a decent amount of the empathy. To be able to, meet people like where they are. And even you look, and I see this in the church and in the political world, where no one is willing or able to actually have a conversation with someone. Everything's a debate or an argument, and not just a debate or an argument, but a debate and argument from the person, like an angry perspective, right? Like, I think, Steven Crowder is a great example of this. I think, even Ben Shapiro's gotten pretty belligerent in the last however many years. And this is why, I was like, why out of all the people, why did they assassinate Charlie Kirk? He was the only nice one. And maybe that's why. Maybe because he was a little, and again, I just see clips. So if you're like, he wasn't nice, things he was saying, then I apologize for my ignorance. I didn't really watch. I'm not really familiar with his stuff other than just clips. And he spoke at very shortly, did a promo at one pastor's conference we were at. But Steven Crowder will get up there and just be like, you're a blankety blank idiot, you're so stupid. And then, Ben Shapiro's kind of become the same thing, to be honest. He used to be a little better back in when he was getting started, back in the teens, when I would see his stuff. And I feel like ministries aren't much better. It's very much this argument. In fact, I mentioned having a 1159, my religious channel. I don't love posting content there because I get so many other Christians wanting to get on and either tell me I'm wrong, or basically, can you mansplain another man? I feel like I get mansplained a lot on that channel. People will watch 3 seconds of my video and then assume that I'm asking rather than teaching, and then go into my comments and then try to teach me. I'm like, you do realize I just made a 3-minute video about that, right? And you just regurgitated everything I said. And if I'm being, trying to be a little neutral here, you butchered it. I did a much better job than you did, if I'm being honest. Or people who are like, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And it's the inability to have a conversation. In fact, I had someone comment on one of my videos. He's like, hey, would you have a conversation with an atheist? I actually need to respond to him. I did respond. He responded. And then I need to reach out and get something set up. And it's yeah, I'll talk to anyone as long as it's going to be, a polite conversation. And if I don't mind hanging up on you if you want to start yelling and screaming. But, so all to say is yeah, I really feel like I need to kind of pivot into an area that I'm not super comfortable going into. So even this video, I said, I started this off just for myself, but then I kind of quickly realized I might post this on a few things. I don't know. We'll see. Be careful, what I say, just in case I want to. But with that said, that's the struggle, because like I said, I woke up this morning feeling like the day was lost. My bipolar won. I wasn't gonna be able to really accomplish anything today. And here I am at 39 minutes and 25 seconds later. I'm now headed back down the mountain. I'm sure there's no biblical significance with that, but I'm headed back down the mountain, and I feel ready to go, right? Is it gonna be the best day ever? Yeah, probably not. But is it gonna be, a solid, getting on base? maybe second, third base today. Yeah, probably. Definitely going to move using the baseball analogy, move the bases along. It may not be a home run, but and feeling much better. I feel like that anxiety has been quelled. That's done. So I made a video yesterday about why I produce content, and one of the 3 reasons was for myself. And it really is almost like therapy for myself. And sometimes I go back and I re-listen to something, I'm like, oh, that sounds so cringy. But in the moment, it really does help me. And then as I'm getting the comments, I see that it's helping others. So I'm like, well, now I feel like I have a responsibility to keep doing it, to keep going, as it were. And at the end of the day, I guess that's the point, right? Is to help as many others as I can. And so if I pivot from, again, back to Gary Vee, from doing document, don't create, and if I pivot away from the expert to the chronicler, the traveler, the wanderer, as it were, the religious vagabond, and that's going to help people, then I guess so be it. So with that, I don't know if I have too much more to say. At the time of this, I'm at 41, just over 41 minutes. I haven't committed if I'm actually going to post this or not, but I am thinking that that might be the direction I need to take. And if so, I need to post this super long video. Didn't even use a microphone. The audio is not going to be great on certain portions, especially when I'm driving over bumpy stuff, but it is what it is. Like I said, I just recorded it for myself originally, so I have the microphones with me. I didn't even set them up because this was just for me to listen back to later. Honestly, not even to listen back to, just to the act of creating it. So let's go back down the hill. I do have a few tasks I need to get done, and then I basically have to make this decision on which direction do I want to pivot off of the feedback I got off of the content from yesterday and really lean into this. And so I really see it as being 2 things. One is leaning into the mental health stuff. Well, I guess 3. It's like 3 nuanced kind of things. Leaning into the mental health stuff, which I already talk about, but to really lean into it. 2, be less of the tour guide and more of the guy who this just isn't his first time up this hill, so who kind of knows the trails but is still in the awe and wonder of doing the trails, as it were. So it's like I can give some advice, and I have some extra resources in my pack I can hand out, because you drink through your water too fast, or you need a granola or protein bar or something, but not necessarily the guide of like, hey, come sign up for my tour. And then also incorporating some of the more of the spiritual side of things. So, and then what does that look like? How am I going to do that? I don't want it to be traditional. I've been thinking about that. I'm probably not ready to talk about that yet, but changing up how I even communicate on those things. Integrating. So right now I'm just taking clips from my sermon channel, or my sermons, and putting it on 1159. Okay, then how would I integrate that into the Becoming Aquaman, which would at that point need to become the Iron Chapel? And how do I integrate those so it's not just like, how is it, all gonna feel, so it doesn't feel like I'm dumping 3 different channels worth of content into one channel, and it's very, no pun intended, but very like bipolar, which I guess technically would be okay in that sense if it jumps around. But like, how can I integrate all of it, like even the religious stuff, so it's less of like that pushing out and more of that pull, be inviting to have a conversation. So yeah, that's the question. That's the $1 million question, as they say. So I guess I need to stop recording and go figure that out. All right, well, love you guys. I'm like 93% sure I'm going to post this, so thank you guys for anyone who watched this far through, and I appreciate you all, and I hope this helps at least one person It's more like 2 or 3 at this point of my following. So that's really cool to know. We always say if one person, knowing that typically it's like 2 or 3 people that it's helping is super awesome, at least based off the comments. So I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day, or have an improved day, right? Take your day and see if you can improve it just a little bit. You know, if you're having a bad day with your anxiety, your depression, your bipolar, your whatever it may be, make today's goal, just make it 10% better. So if you're going to be stuck in bed with anxiety or depression all day today, then that's all you feel like you can do. Great, but then make it 10% better. You know what I mean by great. I apologize if that was insensitive. But like, grab your cell phone, and instead of just doom scrolling all day in between naps, send out 1, 2, maybe 3 texts to people. Hey, I appreciate you. Hey, thanks. Hey, you've been a great friend in the past. Thank you. Hey, mom, appreciate everything, whatever it is, right? Even if that's all you can do. It's like, what is that, the Flash movie, where Batman's like, the Flash is like, I can't save all these people. And he's like, just save 1. And he does, and that motivates him to do another, and then another. So like, just make your goal today. If you're like in bed, maybe it's a terrible migraine, maybe it's crippling anxiety or depression, whatever it may be. If you literally going to spend all day in bed, hey, give yourself the day. If that is what it is, don't beat yourself up because you're not being more, oh, this guy, and he had his, and he went out and he drove up a mountain and then had a mountaintop experience and then went and had this great day. Don't compare yourself to me. Do your thing. If you need to be in bed all day, cool. But just grab your phone and just text one person. Make that your goal for today. Just text one person, one encouraging thing. And then roll back over and go back to sleep. Or, back to TikTok and doom scroll or whatever it is. So, whatever you can do to make today 1% better, 10% better, 5% better, 3% better, whatever it is you can do, I'll leave you with that as encouragement. All right. Love you guys. Have a blessed day.